Today's episode is brought to you by 4 Seconds of Hanzo.
Drop the beat!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, The Blevins, and with me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, man. How are you?
Doing well. Definitely fully prepared for the show today. Didn't forget anything. Didn't have to scrounge up anything last minute. Definitely.
I actually did a little prep this week, so
it was nice.
You got I don't know, trying to set a good example here for all the good it does me.
Yeah, but let's move right along. We had a nice little iTunes review.
Yeah, we did. Random Guy 240 said that he's been listening to the show since Plupster was on IDDQD. So far, his favorite episode was when he got traded to Misfits. And keep it up, guys. So thank you very much for the 5-star review. Right. We were talking to the pre-show. That's like my favorite review ever, I think, just for the sole purpose of all I did that episode was make fun of you for an hour.
Yeah, and all I did was legitimately feel distraught and hurt. So, good times.
We're betrayed a little bit. That was the beauty of it.
It was true pain. You guys saw. That's what made it great. But let's talk a little bit about what we did last week. Death, what'd you do, man?
Sure. So, yeah, we're going to talk about it plenty, but I watched the Overwatch NGE finals this weekend, so there was not a ton of great matches going on, but definitely some, a quality was high, not the quantity, is what I'm trying to say. But, yeah, also I found a team I'm actually going to stick around with a little bit. Nice. And, give it a chance to do some climbing here. We got some really good players on the team. I think one guy is like Masters or up in that range, but he plays with us on his alt as he's trying to get into some 6-stacks and things like that. So it's really good to just play with some high skill cap players again instead of what my last couple tryouts had been before that. Mm-hmm. Shout outs to Zeus, who's on that team and in chat here. So I don't think we have a name yet. The one we've been going by is some anime reference I won't utter. So just whatever it is, I don't get it. But
the best name is Kappa Beta Donger, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a good one.
Clearly the best name I've ever come up with.
Yeah, it was one of your best. If I was making like a gaming frat, that would have to be it for sure.
Patent pending.
Trademark.
Trademark Kappa Beta Dong is a production of Blev Media.
Yeah, saying it just totally it's implied dibs, and I think that's a legal term. So
it's a legal move, and judge, it resolves.
But yeah, other than that, I've been playing a good amount of Diablo. I'm kind of surprised how into that I got. I apparently was really craving a game that I could grind and
that you could grind and get absolutely nothing out of.
Progress over time, like get better with the character, things like that. So, and also I really like not having to be on. Like with Overwatch, you have to be on at all times. True. Like otherwise, you're being terrible. You're not having fun. In Diablo, you can just like drop the Rift difficulty and just turn on a TV show and not care that you're not playing. It just doesn't matter. So there's something to be said for that.
It's true. Another game you have to be on for? Clash Royale.
Yeah, I've been getting into that. I've had a lot of luck finally open some legendaries, which is nice. Have some cards to play.
They absolutely increased the drop rate for legendaries. They had to have because of
the number of them that are in the game now. I think alone. So that definitely helps, and that's one of the main things that was frustrating me before. I mean, it wasn't the catalyst or the straw that broke the camel's back, but just it was this constant weight on my shoulders of like, oh, good, I got to Legendary Arena, but I don't have any Legendary cards, so now I just need to fight these princesses and all the, these cards that I can't even possibly use. And it was just very frustrating. So,
yeah, and it's not like at least in the beginning of the game, or the beginning of the life of the game, the legendaries weren't like these gigantic, extravagant like
Right.
legends. They were like Arcbound Ravagers, where it's like, oh, this is just a 2 mana really good card. Oh, it's legendary because they want to make money. Got it. Okay, great. But
Right.
yeah, so I've been playing a ton of Clash Royale as well. I will give credit where credit's due. I stole Deathblow's deck idea or deck list, pretty much card for card, except I made
I
one
stole it
improvement.
anyways.
Oh, you stole it too?
Yeah. And I made one improvement because he didn't play Executioner, which was
Oh,
wrong.
that's just wrong. If you're not playing Executioner right now, you might as well executionize your chances of getting to Legend Arena. The card is insane. But I've been playing that, and it's been really good. It's been really fun. I've also been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, another really great mobile game.
Lord.
I've been playing Shadowverse, or is that what it's called? Shadowverse? Yeah, another, like, it's basically a Hearthstone clone, as well as Hearthstone as always. I've been playing a surprisingly low amount of Overwatch. I was in New Jersey all weekend, so I didn't get to play Overwatch. I played a little bit yesterday, and my first box I opened a Diva Legendary, like the one I absolutely wanted. I think I actually want all the skins the more I look at them. But I did get to play that. I played a little bit of Capture the Rooster. I'm over it already. I played one game, I'm over it. Like, I keep wanting these brawls to be fun, and like, I guess it kind of is. It's just not worth the boxes. Like, it's not worth a third of a box I get for playing.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet. I don't intend to. I'll take Capture the Flag very seriously right as soon as they do, and they start talking about it like a regular game mode. For the time being, though, and I'm happy to report I have not gotten a legendary skin from this from this event yet, and I'm super thrilled. Save all my luck, hold on to it. I'll need it when the loot boxes go back to legendary, or go back to regular, I should say.
Yeah, I actually like all the skins, but I could see, like, they're definitely hit or miss. They're kind of like the summer game skins. Like, if we went now and we got summer games now after all of these, we'd probably be a lot less impressed with them. But it was like the first thing they did. It was like, oh, I need all these skins. I need all these skins. I need all these skins. I need them all. This is amazing. This is the greatest thing ever. Holy crap! I didn't think they're going to do stuff like this. Oh man, give me these skins. And now it's like, this is like all right, maybe. Like Lucio's like got a headband. Okay, like
Right.
I'm more now like I want skins that have awesome guns or awesome weapons, because like that's the coolest thing. Like, I actually like, I'm actually disappointed I didn't get the Lucio Christmas skin because it has a cooler gun. But I have everything else, so, and I might open loot boxes. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm thinking about it because I really want the Winston, and I really want the Roadhog.
Right.
But I have a really good Winston and a really good Roadhog skin already, so I don't know.
I've decided to change the grading curve for how I evaluate skins, just because I can't fall in love with every single one of them. Like, they're coming too fast now for me to really keep that kind of attitude about it. I gotta wait for the ones that are really like the best for that hero, and if they're not the best for that hero, they're unplayable and dead to me.
You bring up a good point.
That's my new.
But here's the thing about this one specifically is that it's only going to be Year of the Rooster once in, what is it, 6 years, 10 years, 12 years? I don't know how long. 10 years? I don't know how long the like lunar cycle is for Chinese New Year, but it's not going to be Year of the Rooster next year. So who knows? We might not see these skins again.
Maybe we just won't see a Chinese New Year event.
And racist. But
Racist.
but let's move on to what did you guys do last week? So obviously I trolled through Reddit to see if anything cool or interesting happened, and right after I got cancer, I found this really, really awesome painting. Well, it's probably not actually done in paint, but they called it a painting. It's of I think Demon Heart or Black Heart, Reinhardt skin, whatever, the black
furnace in the belly.
in the belly, black armored Reinhardt, epically fighting the Mako skin of Roadhog, like Shark Head versus like Inferno. It's pretty amazing. And the link to it is in the show notes. The link to which is going to be down in the description. So check that out. I literally immediately made it my desktop background. Because I have two screens and now one screen is Reinhardt and one screen is Roadhog, which is awesome. Also, it's just an epic picture. So definitely suggested. I'm gonna try to not be a complete. I'll post who it was done by in the notes because I forgot to check. But credit will be given in the notes. So take a look at that, check them out, and yeah, it'll be awesome. But let's move along to a sub-segment, but a very important sub-segment of what did you guys do last week.
Overwatch Today, meme of the week.
Yes, Overwatch Today is back again this week with a nice, fresh, warm, dank batch of memes. So we got a don't let anyone shame you for puns, hashtag deep thoughts, High Noon Podcast meme. We've got a South Park one, and you're more familiar with South Park than I am. I don't remember what that character's name is.
It's Mr. Mackey.
Mr.
Five
Mackey.
stacks are bad, okay?
5 stacks are bad, okay? Like, so good. And then I think this is my choice for meme of the week, but Platinum and below equals beer league. So
My favorite was the first one, but he
Yeah.
was quoting me, so
yeah, of course. But yeah, all of those are also going to be in the show notes. Also, check out at Overwatch Today on Twitter as well as Instagram, as well as this podcast. All that good stuff and more available there. Overwatch Today, his Instagram like blew up. I think he recently got 20,000 Instagram followers.
yeah.
Pretty insane.
Well, he's got the dank memes over there.
Got the dankest of memes. But let us move right along to our normally scheduled segment.
It's tournament talk.
The tournament talk. And I just have been listening to these plays, and if they're like way too loud for you guys, tweet at us or let us know, because they're like super loud for me. But if they're not loud for you, I will suffer through it. It's okay. But we got a couple of good tournaments this week. The first one we'll talk about is one that A. Smith actually let us know about, and the only reason that we're talking about it is because Dignitas has a new roster, which we'll talk about in a little bit. That was the Overwatch Extra Cup. We saw Dignitas, the Chavs, GDA, and MRDS in the top 4 of that tournament, and we saw the Chavs beat Dignitas. I believe this was an EU LAN that was going on at basically the same time as the NGE tournament. Didn't really get a chance to check it out, but A. Smith let us know about it. And, Dignitas has a new roster. So I figured that was an interesting one to bring up. And we'll talk about that Dignitas roster in just a little bit. But let's move on to the meat and potatoes. The one that we've been talking about for what seems like forever now. It's been going on forever. In a good way, actually, surprisingly enough. I'm actually kind of glad it's been going on this long, but we're finally seeing the finale of the Next Generation Esports Winter Premiere, which had its finals at PAX South Live. We saw Complexity, Luminosity, Ghost Gaming, formerly known as Kungarna, hashtag we called it here first, and Immortals.
I don't know about first, but
we called it here, parentheses, maybe first. And we also didn't call it they get picked up by Ghost Gaming. We just called it they get picked up by someone. And we saw in the third place match, we saw Complexity face off against Luminosity. and the finals were Ghost Gaming versus Immortals, and Immortals ended up taking that one down. But yeah, Death. What did we kind of see in this tournament? What was the story? What was the finals like?
Well, the finals was a little more tightly contested than I think the score really kind of played it off to be. Really in the end, Immortals won 3-1, obviously in the finals there. The match of the week that I'm going to give you guys is actually LG versus Complexity in that third place match. It was a really tightly contested matchup there. It was, at least from a suspense standpoint, going to map 5 a little bit stronger than the finals. But LGE came out victorious there, which I think is really curious. I think with all the roster changes we're seeing, we might see something come from Complexity because, we've talked about how they're going into this tournament, we're really slated to be one of the front runners, and they never really quite played out that way. I mean, they came out at the top of the second group stages, but for all the good that did them, clearly as they finished fourth of the top 4 here. So, but I just think it was, I'm fairly certain I called Immortals there. Just they were the most consistent throughout the course of the tournament from match 1 to the finals. They were the best performing team. They suffered a couple losses in group, but nothing obviously catastrophic, as they were able to go on to take the overall victory in the championship there. So they also, interestingly enough, were using Chance at Reinhardt instead of Nomi. So there was an issue with being able to travel to the LAN or something there. I don't know the full story on that. But
yeah, I believe it had to do with actually getting to the event.
Yeah, that's definitely what it seemed like. So, great on them. I mean, that's one of the great things about having a coach that's also a player, right? Yeah. Is that you have somebody who's in all your meetings, that knows all your strategies. You're not missing anything from a communication standpoint unless he's subbing in for your shot caller. Then things are obviously going to have to be quite different. But for the most part, I mean, they just continued to do what they did. They 3-0 over Luminosity, 3-1 over Ghost Gaming. And one thing I thought was really curious is the deciding map was, I can't remember which, but it was one of the King of the Hill maps. And they were talking about it throughout the event. The commentators were about how, Ghost had Immortals in King of the Hill. There was maybe one round that had been won by Immortals throughout the entire event on King of the Hill. And the numbers were drastically in Ghost's favor. So Ghost picked the second King of the Hill map for map 4, and it didn't pay off for him. Immortals had the kind of killer instinct to go in there and finish it off and get the win. So big on them. Ghost was really impressive too. I mean, up until that last match, they 3-0'd Complexity. Wasn't really close. They wore sunglasses the whole time, which was a choice. But yeah, it was really, really impressive. They fought well in the finals. They just weren't quite able to pull it out. And I remember I was watching it with some of the guys in the team in Discord, and for a 3-1 finals, you would be surprised how many times we said, like, this is a really good match. Like, you know what I mean? This is really going really well. It's really close. And they couldn't quite force that 5th map to allow the scoreboard to really reflect it.
Yeah, and I know you can't see this right now, Death, but I'm actually wearing sunglasses, so in solidarity with Ghost. But no, it was interesting. I do think that you called Immortals to win, so I guess you get the point for this tournament. But for what it's worth, my team was in the finals as well, and technically, the team I called to win wasn't in the finals. Kungarna was not in the finals. Ghost Gaming was.
So you were extra wrong.
I was extra wrong. No, the whole reason that I picked Kungarna over anyone else was because they had the most to prove, because they hadn't been picked up yet, and then they got picked up before the tournament, which I think is a discussion in and of itself. We talked a little bit about this on the Patreon Discord, which you guys can join by going over to patreon.com/podcast. Got to get that shill in there. But we talked about this. It's like, yeah, it's a really interesting choice, because like last episode, I asked you the question, would you leave Kungarna to go to Cloud9? And you say no, because you think the opportunity for Kungarna is stronger than with Cloud9, or it's
Well,
strong. The
you're just like
potential
you're
is
right there. Yeah, yeah,
right
like you're
there.
right there. You're so new. You could keep climbing and get to the
Right.
top. If you're telling me, can I join Envious or can I join Cloud9? Those are very different conversations.
Yeah.
So yeah, and one thing I will say is Ghost. I don't know. I feel like they could have. I don't know what the contract looks like, and that's what's important.
Yeah.
But I just was just not an org on my radar. I don't know. I
even
kind of
know if
thought they'd get one of the bigger names.
Yeah. So this is my thought. Okay, you look at it from Ghost's perspective. Ghost, I'd never heard of them, and I know, or at least am somewhat familiar with like every esports organization that I possibly see. So I'd never seen them before. This might be them, Ghost GG Esports. I don't even know. Upcoming.
No, I think
esports
they're very
organization.
specifically Ghost Gaming, not Ghost Esports, and
Okay.
I don't think they have a website.
Okay, so I don't even know if they have a Twitter. They at the
They
okay,
might
so
exist.
they do exist. Okay, so here's the Twitter. They have fewer followers than us. Okay, so safe to say now they're one follower closer. Safe to say they are a new org. They
Yeah.
joined Twitter in April 2016. So new org. Maybe they. I'm not gonna do the research right now. I'm gonna do this completely speculative because I don't want to waste a bunch of time. Maybe they got a sponsorship. They pitched it. Maybe they have some money. So what is as a new, completely unknown esports org? You see an unsigned team in the finals of this big Overwatch NA tournament. You go, I want this team, and I want them for this tournament, and I want them at any cost. So you go, okay, Kungarna, here is everything. Here's the biggest deal. It's a 3-month deal, a huge deal. It's going to be more than any other org is going to give you, like, day over day. They go, well, we want to get picked up by Echo Fox. We want to get picked up by Virtus Pro. We want to get picked up by X other giant esports org that's not in Overwatch yet. TSM. But Astralis. But, we can take this big check right now and play in this tournament. So,
I mean, from the player perspective, that's what it's all about is, resources that you have. They probably didn't win that fight with, I'm not assuming that there was other orgs vying for it, but, a more established org would be better from a resource to help you get better perspective. But I mean, the only other factor is really money and getting along with ownership is a big deal. You want everybody on the same page, things like that. But it doesn't have to have been a bad move for anybody. I think it was great from the organization's perspective. You have made a splash. You made sure your name was in the top 4. They played in the finals one day after you signed them. Like everything's all good there. I don't know if that means, maybe that's what that means, is that there wasn't any bigger organizations knocking on the door yet. So
it seems interesting.
what they did.
I guess it might actually be the perfect storm, because if you are a Virtus Pro or a TSM who's actually been in Overwatch before, if you're one of these teams, these big teams that's already having the talks about Overwatch League, that's talking with potential huge sponsors, venture capitalist firms, it might not be a good idea to spend a large sum of money today to secure let's face it, an unproven commodity. They've done well. They're still relatively new, and they're still relatively volatile. Might not make sense from a bigger org standpoint. But if you are Ghost Esports, who literally spawned into existence a month before actually, I think probably during the time that the NGE started. I don't remember when it actually started, but April 2016 is relatively recently. How else is a brand new nothing proven esports organization going to make a splash in any scene like Ghost did. Like, there's 100 other esports organizations that we will never hear of that are at, all things aside, either at the same level that Ghost was at. But now we're talking about Ghost for 20 minutes on the show. People know who Ghost is. People are going to be looking at where Ghost is the next tournament they enter. People are going to maybe check out the website more. Maybe it'll be interesting that we now have a very real counter for what their Twitter followers are at. They're at 697 followers as of episode 55 of High Noon Podcast. It's going to be interesting to see what they're at episode 65, or if they even still exist. Who knows? It could go either way for sure. It seems like this is a very high risk, high reward type of move, and I think that the situation for esports organizations, at least right now, in the somewhat oversaturated market of esports teams, I commend them, honestly. There's no better way to get people talking about you as an esports organization, in a good way at least, than doing what Ghost did. So kudos to them, and hopefully Kungarna, it was good for them from a financial standpoint. I hope it works out.
Yeah, I'm definitely still just as interested as it's not hurting or helping my case for liking the team. I like them because they're the young upstart. You know what I mean? They feel like they're likely to do things a little differently because of the youth on the team and how new they are together as a group. And so I'm excited to see it, especially as we watch the metagame shift a little bit here. What these new teams are going to do. And also, it's great to see the new team get up into the top of that bottom, or not bottom, but second tier. We have the top tier off at the Apex tournament. Yep. So it really helps. The fact that there's a good competition and things going on without those top three teams here means better things for when they come back. Things are going to be that much more interesting and that much more compelling, I guess, until Apex Season 3 starts 1 week after Season 2 ends again, and they steal 3 more teams. But
I don't know, man. In the meantime, an Apex spring premiere, or not Apex, sorry, an NGE spring premiere would be pretty sweet to watch too.
Yeah.
Even if it's the dedicated, I hate to use it because it sounds like a negative connotation, but the dedicated B tournament, or tier 2 tournament, or NA tournament, whatever you want to call it. I really enjoyed this tournament. I really enjoyed the format of it. I really enjoyed the stories that came from it. I think that, honestly, with the exception of two exceptions come to mind of better storylines that have come from Overwatch tournaments or Overwatch tournament series. The one is the super teams, the old IDDQD, the team, not the player, the old Twinston Cloud9, the old but still somewhat still continue to this very day Envious. The what?
The at release Envious.
Exactly. All these super undefeated, untouchable teams. That's a better, I think, maybe not a better, but a very good storyline. And the other storyline that is comparable, I think, is Rogue calling out Envious at Apex Season 1, and then Envious just dominating. Choosing their opponent, they choose Envious. I think that was a more not a more interesting, but a very interesting and compelling storyline. Besides those two instances, I can't think off the top of my head of more interesting non-game related storylines or non-direct gameplay related storylines that have come from a tournament. And I think that this tournament has done a really good job of doing that. And I think at the end of the day, Overwatch is Overwatch, and people who like Overwatch are going to want to watch the Overwatch tournaments. But people who are on the fence, maybe people who are gamers or esports enthusiasts that don't necessarily like Overwatch or care that much about Overwatch, are going to get drawn into Overwatch from these storylines, not from stuff that's in the game. I guess if you showed the highlight video of Himsy's hooks, maybe you'd want to watch just from a sheer holy crap, let's watch a god play Overwatch. But besides that, I think it's the storylines that are going to really draw people in.
Yeah, and all the major sports have that too. You got a coach changes teams, and the fanfare that went on when Rex Ryan went back and played against the Jets was ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like things like that really compel, and they elevate, and it's something we'll notice more when the Overwatch League is going on, because presumably there's going to be some overlap, multiple games going on at one physical time. So it'll be more noticeable then when you're saying, well, do I watch this match or do I watch this match? Like, who am I watching this week? And it's going to be those storylines that make that decision, and those storylines that cement you with your team and make you pick who you're going to really root for instead of just watching.
Yeah, I mean, if we had these types of storylines for just one team, we would probably be fans of that team. But we're blessed and cursed by having all the information, so we have to like everyone and also hate everyone. But yeah, overall, NGE, huge thumbs up from me. I'm looking forward to seeing a spring premiere or another tournament series in the same vein. I honestly wouldn't change much in terms of format. I really liked it.
Big thanks and big thumbs up from me as well.
Yes, maybe I'll see what I can do to reach out to them, see if we can get a representative on the show. I don't know, no promises, but let's move. Let's move on. One thing I wanted to mention because someone on Twitter let us know. Last week's episode was not on SoundCloud, not because we're not putting them on SoundCloud anymore, but instead because I'm an idiot. It will be back on SoundCloud this week. Literally just forgot to put the submit button. But have no fear, SoundCloud listeners. We're still doing it. So, but without further ado, let us move right along to.
Oh, let's break it down!
Yes, we actually have a lot to break down this segment. First thing I want to talk about real quick, mentioned earlier, was Team Dignitas's new roster. Dignitas 2017, as they're calling it. We have Watt7, Toxican, Bromas, Linkser, Vainless, and Evoke. So the same core of I believe Bromas, Linkser, and was Vainless on the old Dignitas? Do you remember? I think there was.
I don't remember when they joined Dignitas. There was a little bit of a time period for this team where they brought in some extra people, and I think Evoke and Vainless might have been there. I think the brand new inclusion is definitely Watt7. Toxican might have been part of that last build, but from day one, we're really only looking at Linkser and Bromas still together.
Yeah, which is nice. I would have been disappointed if our boy Lynx was somewhere else or not playing. But definitely,
just want to get him in some bigger tournaments, because I peeked in on his stream the other day. He is still playing a lot of Widowmaker, and I really want to see it.
Yeah,
I miss it.
Yeah, definitely a treat to see Lynx play. One last thing I wanted to mention about this Dignitas team, which is quite interesting, because we've seen actually the opposite of this start to happen with other teams. About as diversified across the globe as you could be for a team. We've got Australia, Spain, Finland, Germany, Lithuania. All across the board. Almost the opposite of the Misfits and Rogue sort of philosophy. So it's going to be interesting to see what that means for Overwatch League. Are they just gonna move to NA and do it like that, or it's all still a toss up? But it's just very interesting, at least from like a time zone perspective, like having not Australia, Austria. Okay, that's a little bit less diverse. I swear I saw Australia. That makes more sense. I was gonna say it's like it has to be crazy for someone if there's an Australian player on the team, because the time zone is like a million years different. But that's not the case, so I'm an idiot. Further proving the fact that I'm an idiot. But
it's the theme of the show today.
Yep. I'm gonna go back and re-record what the show is brought to us by.
How many shame bells have you gone with so far?
Oh, not today. I used them all up last time. But yeah, it's interesting. So I guess they're mostly, I guess, Eastern Europe. So Spain. I don't know. It's not too bad actually, but it'll be interesting. Yeah, I agree. I would like to see them in some more. Just in some more tournaments at this point. I think this was like one of the first tournaments they played in a while. But they're restructuring, so.
Yeah, and they did lose to the Chavs, and I did some research on the Chavs. They're, I think, slotted at like the number 5 team in Europe right now from the Gosu Gamers rankings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're not a team we've seen a bunch in high-level tournament play or anything like that.
Yeah.
But clearly they're making their rounds in the smaller circuits. I think they're kind of on that breakout watch list at the moment. So somebody to keep an eye on. I don't want to brush it off like, oh well, they lost to the Chavs, so they're clearly nothing special. But at the same time, they did lose to a team that I had to research to know much about.
Yeah.
So they've clearly got some work to do still, but the roster, I have down the line, every single one of them I've heard of before. I'm least familiar with Watt 7, but I mean, he's presumably the Reinhardt because he's the one listed as tank there. So,
yeah.
They're easy to overlook sometimes unless you're really standing on your head like some of the biggest names do. It's easy to overlook sometimes, so we'll see.
Yeah, and Lynx is one of those players who are becoming a rarer breed nowadays that can just take over a game with their DPS skills.
Yeah, he's a highlight reel waiting to happen.
Exactly. But maybe he'll shine a little bit more in this new meta, which we had a bit more defined by the finale of the NGE tournament. Deathblow, what do we have in terms of stats for that one?
Yeah, big thanks to the folks over at Winston Lab for being kind enough to separate the finals on the new meta that they are on from the rest of the stats, so that way we can look at what exactly was happening with just the changes from the patch and play. Basically what we're looking at here is a whole lot less tanks, and it starts from the top. 51.43% of the time in this finals, there was 2 DPS, 2 tanks, and 2 healers on the field. The second most played was triple tank with 1 DPS and 2 healers. That was 36%, and then all the way down at 8% of the time was quad tank, 2 support. So a massive shift. That would have been more like tied for second with 3 tank, 1 DPS before, and now we've seen it all but completely disappear, and that is, I think, really, really impressive. Other things we're noticing here is a little bit of a drop off in Anna, not a ton. She's still very good. She's still very probably the highest burst healing in the game. I haven't crunched the numbers on it with the new biotic grenade. I'm going to trust mathematicians and people smarter than me to figure that out. I was told there would be no math. So
no one ever said that.
Also, we're seeing a considerably more Zarya. She comes in as the number 2 tank behind Reinhardt.
Yeah.
As far as tiers go, though, for these heroes, we're seeing a big 3, Lucio, Anna, and Reinhardt. Anna is below 90%. The other 2 are well above it. Reinhardt at 90, Lucio at 98. We've talked about it. AoE speed is OP.
Yeah.
So Zarya comes in at 70%, and then next is not Roadhog. So that right away is a big deal. Not Diva, okay? It's Tracer. 52.74% of the time, there was a Tracer on the field in these 76. Finals. You have to look at why that might be. Part of it is just, listen, all these extra tanks going away, if there's not a Diva on the field and there's not a Roadhog hook, it's a lot harder for the tanks to cover the distance to get in your face as a backline harasser. Also, I do think, and I don't have any numbers to support this because I didn't do too much research, I think from my impressions of watching the tournament, there was more King of the Hill than I think is normally average. It's going to start to shift in that direction a little bit as they just added a King of the Hill map in. No pro team is playing on it. I don't think it's seen play in a tournament yet, at least not a major tournament yet. So we don't have any basis to say that they're playing it more often from that perspective, but the extra ones in the pool are certainly going to lead us into playing a little bit more. So let's see, coming in after the Tracer is the Roadhogs and the Divas. They both saw a healthy amount of play. Diva a little bit below 30%, and Roadhog was just a little under 50, so he was still at 48%. But Zarya has clearly taken over the number 2 tank spot. Roadhog is definitely still viable, but he just does less ridiculous things, hooking people out of places he has no business hooking them out of, things like that. Diva, same thing. She saw more of a stark drop off, but I think that's just because the current meta right now is very pick oriented. It's not huge coordinated play oriented necessarily. So if we were seeing, with Zarya, and then maybe we go back into Beyblade a little bit, maybe we would see Diva overtake the Roadhog, as she's so good at shutting that down, and he's really got to hit the hook or he dies right along with everybody else. So and that's kind of my explanation there. I do think both of the tanks are in a really good spot. Diva, personally, when playing her, I don't notice much of a difference. I haven't played a ton on her. I'm back to support.
Rip.
But anyways, yeah. So she seems very comfortable to me. I don't have any issues playing on her when I'm in comp though, and need to flex if I'm not in a 6 stack. So I don't see any problem there. Genji comes in next at just under 38%, 27.22. Yeah, and I think the same explanation here is with Tracer. We're seeing more Koth play, and when you take away the mobile tanks out of the composition, you don't have the Roadhog hooks, you don't have the dash of Diva, you are much safer when you're harassing supports in the back with Tracer or a Genji, and I think they're both seeing a benefit from that, as well as a slightly more Koth play on the course of these 3-4 matches that played out for these stats. So it's a small sample size, so we're going to see some outliers, but nonetheless, I do think we saw a fair amount of Tracer being played on other style of maps. We'll have to wait and see, if they're playing more of a backline strategy where Sombra will fit into that, because we didn't see a ton of complexity running the Sombra strategy. But if a backline player is good, Sombra was seeing play before with all the tanks, so she saw a little bit of a buff and gets a little more utility from her hack ability. So we'll have to see if there's anything to that, and if she continues to pick up. Let's see, going in, we got Soldier at 25%, Farah 18%, McCree 16%, so they're kind of making up that bulk of the DPS tier. I think people were running the Farah when they didn't, if they were seeing a Tracer and 3 tanks. I think that was a very popular pick to counter that over the course of these matches. Winston saw a little bit of play, 10%, same with Zenyatta. So a little bit of a less reliance on the Ana, and I think that's going to continue over time. I know personally right now, like I said, I went back to support. I'm playing more Zenyatta than Ana right now. It's not that there's a problem with Ana, it's that I can be way more impactful from my spot on Zenyatta, and in 6 stacks, sometimes that's a bigger deal. I'm not playing in a tournament with all pros. I'm playing in diamond tier, or a little bit below diamond tier right now.
Almost beer
league. I think as a group rating. Yeah, well, I'm still, by the definition set forth in the meme, I'm still definitely in beer league. So. May saw a significant drop off, in my opinion. She's at about 4%. Sombra, under 3, makes sense. Complexity was losing and probably didn't feel like they could dictate the pace of the play very much, which is what they would do if they were winning. I think we would have seen more of the Sombra strategy come out from them. Symmetra saw a little light play for me, under 2%. And I got to say, in team practice, I am at 100% play of the game rage when I play Symmetra. So it is...
Attack Symmetra! Activate!
I've literally done so well that the team is talking about trying an attack Symmetra. Like when you think about going after 3rd point of Dorado, if they all commit left very hard and go fight for that health pack room, and then I just sneak up right and put a teleporter in the back right corner, then they all die. Like, we're talking about ways to try to use attack Symmetra because I've been that good on her. So I think she's going to see some more play going forward. Reaper as well saw very little bit of play, right around 2%. So
yeah, and I mean, some of this, especially like the Symmetra, I guess to an extent the Sombra, maybe even the May, a lot of it's map dependent. And if we're not seeing a ton, I mean, it was such a small sample size that we just may not have seen enough of the maps to really see the Symmetra and those other people as well. What I'm looking at this and I'm like, the gap I'm seeing in this meta is like, I feel like Winston, just based on the top plays, the top picks, I think Winston has a spot here. We're seeing very little Reaper. That's the number one counter for Winston. We're seeing more Tracer, Genji, Zarya all pair quite nicely with a dive comp Winston. I think we could see dive comp come back. If people
the top two DPSs are Tracers and Genjis, and Winston's a great way to counter them.
Exactly.
Anna and Lucio don't have much game in defending against a Winston outside of a sleep dart. It's a really good call, to be honest. And the tanks that have the shotgun style large spread that really would fight a Winston, they're dropping off right now. Yeah. So I think that's a really good point. One I hadn't really,
folks.
One I really hadn't gotten to quite yet either. So great spot there, and definitely. As still what I would call my best hero, Winston is clearly somebody I would love to see play more, and he seems to be kind of a signature hero for the game too, right?
Yeah.
Like Zenyatta is not in every single short that ever comes out, but Winston sure is. So it's somebody they're going to want to see in the game, and they're just not addressing him because what are they going to do? Make it 5 tanks and 1 healer if they buff him? Like it would just get ridiculous.
Winston, he's so fun and good, but he's like really quite easily countered because he's actually quite squishy because he's so fat, and he just takes so much damage, and his shield is just so bad that if you don't have good positioning and you're not using your jump effectively and you're not doing this, that, the other thing, he just dies. But if those things aren't happening and you get to their Anna, their Lucio, like you said, if Anna misses a sleep dart, done, just done. And while you're
just on cooldown, like if you wait to jump until you hear it, you're golden.
Exactly. And if while you're attacking that Anna, if someone comes up and tries to defend her, you're also doing some amount of chip damage to them as well because it's just a huge ball of lightning and death. And he's got great mobility, and he just has everything.
Cleave damage is really, really
exactly.
strong.
He's doing AoE damage, and you don't even have to try. And his ult is great at positioning. Like he's a really I really enjoy playing Winston. Once I actually got a grasp of okay, I need to use my shift to get out and to position myself better, not to get in. Or if I'm going to use it to get in, I need a really good reason to do it. I can't just jump into 4 people and throw down my shield like the old days.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the goal is jump in and jump out.
Exactly.
Because the cooldown's pretty short. But yeah, your jump positioning has to be right, because if you put yourself in the thick of it as you land, you're not going to live for that cooldown. So.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see more Winston play, and I would definitely like to see Winston more viable. It's tough because Winston is one of those guys, one of those heroes that's just so inherently powerful that if you buff him, he's probably pushed over the edge. I don't think you can give him more damage. I don't think you want to give him more damage.
The one thing I think they could do is they could give us some shield back. He could actually.
They could at least make the cooldown make the cooldown start when you drop it, not when it explodes like it used to be.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's got to be more. To me, it's got to be more than Zarya bubbling somebody to stop that one projectile that you saw coming.
Yeah.
It's got to be about shielding some damage, and that's, I don't think, really right now what it does.
Yeah, it's more like a piece of paper that you put over, and it's okay, well, I guess it stopped a little bit, but they just keep shooting through the piece of paper, and I'm dead.
Right, it's a hook stopper. You can keep it up for a half a second to block the one thing you see, and that's it.
And then it explodes. But I don't know. I'm really liking Winston. I'm really liking Winston in this configuration of the meta. Again, this small sample size, we could very well see, the Apex tournament give us some completely different numbers, some completely different distributions. Also, it's a small sample size in terms of number of games played. It's also a small sample size in terms of players playing.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's entirely possible that these 4 teams just don't really have a Reaper player, so they didn't play him because no one's really good at him. Same with May, potentially. It was kind of refreshing to see that Genji, Soldier, Pharah, McCree kind of chunk right in the middle, where it's like, okay, I feel like that's healthy. It's 4 DPSs all kind of right dab in the middle, depending on the situation, or even not necessarily the situation, but depending on who your specific teammate or your player is good at, they can pick whoever they want and be completely fine.
Right.
They're all doing. I mean, Farah's doing a pretty significantly different thing than the other ones, but in terms of if you just look at it as we need someone to do damage right now, they're all pretty much doing the same thing.
Right. I need hit scan. It's, well, okay, I feel better on this one than on this one.
Yeah.
It's not, well, I have to play this one because it's such a difference.
It's not like, okay, well, you can play McCree because you're better with McCree than 76, but you're just going to be at a disadvantage to every good 76 player. It's more like, pick who you want. They're going to do slightly different things, but overall it's going to be relatively the same in terms of their objective, and you're going to be doing all right.
And speaking of McCree, Grim Reality, holy cow. He is ridiculous on the Cowboy. It is out of this world. Like, made me try to play a little McCree this week as I'm watching. I'm just going like, I don't understand. I need like just how do you fire 3 shots at that guy and 3 people die? That's what I want to know, because that doesn't happen unless I'm alting. Doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's who else? Crap. Who is the player? Who is the captain for Rogue? I can't think.
I've been having so much trouble
AKM.
any
AKM.
clusters.
That's who it is.
Yeah.
AKM. Absolutely insane, McCree. I think McCree.
Where's R tier at? I want to see more McCree.
Yeah. I think McCree is one of those heroes that's like, when you see a good McCree, it's like, holy crap, that is something else. Like, you see a good Zarya, okay, they're doing all right. You see a good Ana. Actually, you see a good Ana, it's pretty impressive too. But McCree is one of those like showstoppers. It's like, oh my.
and then you've got Lucio's, and if you've got a good Lucio, you don't know he's there. You think it's a 5-on-5 game.
Yeah, we have a Lucio.
You only notice the Lucio when he's terrible. So
yep. Unless they get a bunch of boops, but that's relatively rare. But
right.
Yeah. Any closing comments on the meta, the NGE tournament, or anything else in that vein?
No, really nothing at the moment. It was just thanks again for, like you said, and like I said, a great event. I really, really enjoyed all aspects of it, and I really hope they continue to run them and do the exact same format again. Run it back. Get the next group of teams ships off to Apex, and those come back and start it up again like right away. I would be very hyped for that, but I'm assuming we'll have to wait a little while.
Yeah, what if it was like they were connected somehow? NGE was connected to Apex, and like if you win NGE, you automatically qualify for Apex, and if you lose Apex, you get bumped down to NGE.
But I want to see like somebody defend their title. That's not that's not true. Something that's happened much in Overwatch.
That is a good point. I guess Apex is kind of like the first time, like Envy right now is.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like the Overwatch Open could happen again. I'm trying to think of the other
big MLG
ones.
Could happen again too.
Right, the Josh OG was something that came across as a one-off when it happened, and.
Yeah, I haven't really seen, like, Josh OG has not even really been playing Overwatch at all.
He's always been a bounce through games kind of guy.
Yeah, it was just really kind of interesting. Like, he put on the biggest tournament, the biggest Overwatch
really
tournament.
Impressive for just a streamer to do that.
It was really awesome. He got really good casting talent. The only Overwatch tournament we've seen Kevin Naki commentate at.
Yeah.
It was like a cool set. I don't know where it was. It was like in a like interesting like studio type of set. I don't know if he rented out a studio or if he just has one or what. And it was the biggest tournament at the time. This was like before the 100K tournaments really popped up, or maybe one was announced, but this is before the standard of like, okay, Overwatch, Premier Overwatch tournament, 100K go. It was like we had. This was like in the days of only the Gosu weeklies, and like maybe we were starting to see some other tournaments.
Right.
But this is the first big one, and then nothing. So I don't know, kind of interesting, but I'd like to see that again. And yeah, I definitely love the storyline of like defending the title. Like, you know, Envy they've got a chip on their shoulder. Like, people are gunning for them.
Yeah, we've been missing that. I mean, that we had that a bit with like the teams on top, but I mean, you've got. See, and the problem is so many of those tournaments, like the lands, were won by Misfits, and then the huge roster shakeup. Like, it won't feel
was
the
it
same.
really Misfits? Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. I this is the one I'm watching for that. You know, I'll remember Immortals won this one. Like, this is their event. They were really impressive the whole way, and I just want to run it back so that they've got to defend the title ASAP.
Yep. I mean, you know, winter is ending eventually. Maybe
Not here.
no, not here, but other places. Spring will be coming. But let us move along. You mentioned the match of the week already.
Yeah, I don't have a VOD for that yet. I will look for one. I will try to remember to look for one. If you're hearing the episode and there's nothing on the website and you're looking for it, tweet at me at High Noon Podcast and let me know that it's still not there, and I will check again and make sure there's still no VOD up on YouTube.
We will get something for you as soon as we can. But let's move on to another segment. This one, I'm just going to go into it. Let's move on to Soldier Says. And this one's a very interesting and self-pointed one. So, Soldier, take it away.
Soldier Says, if you're gonna have a weekly segment, you should probably prepare some backups for it.
So, this one has nothing to do with Overwatch at all. Obviously, it has to do with the show.
Bring it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a really good point. I did not have a Soldier Says prepared for this week, and I of course deserve the
Shame
bell. I deserve it because I didn't have one. Usually, I want to bestow some sort of Overwatch wisdom that I learned this week and bestow it upon you via the ever trustworthy Soldier 76. But
I wouldn't let him give you Clash Royale advice in that segment.
If you're not playing Executioner, uninstall the game.
No, but I mean, that is true. But I thought of it as an interesting opportunity for you guys to submit your own Soldier Says. So what we want is your guys' Soldier Says. So tweet at us. Go to Twitter. Tweet at High Noon Podcast. Use the hashtag Soldier Says. And give us any sort of advice you can think of for Overwatch. It can be funny. It can be actual advice. I kind of prefer it be actual advice. That's kind of what we've been doing. But if it's funny, I'm not going to turn it away.
It better be really funny. If it's just kind of funny, we'll go with.
We will call you out for not being that funny, and you will be made fun of.
We'll just say your name, ring the shame bell, and then nothing else.
Yes. So, at the very least, it's going to be your guys' chance to get on the show with very minimal effort. So, tweet at us at High Noon Podcast on Twitter. Use the hashtag Soldier Says. For example, you could do at High Noon Podcast hashtag Soldier Says to make sure that you have your skin equipped before you join a ranked match. I don't know. I forget. I went into a rank. I was like, oh man, I opened this Diva skin. This new Diva skin. I'm like, oh, I'm going to play it. It's going to be awesome. Join a rank match. And I forgot to equip it. And I had to use my old skin. I was contemplating just leaving the game, equipping my skin and joining another one, taking the MMR loss. But I fought through it. And I ended up winning, so it was worth it. But something like that. So again, just to reiterate, go to Twitter, tweet at High Noon Podcast, use the hashtag Soldier Says, and we will probably say all of them unless we get inundated with a million different Soldier Says tweets. We'll probably go over all of them, and we'll shame bell some, and we will commend the good ones, and it should be a bunch of fun. So let us know what you want us to go over. So we're just about at time. Do we want to do some of the extra topics, or do we want to save them for later?
Oh, we might as well save them till they're more of a thing. If we're right on time, we can close it out.
Just about time. Yeah. So we've got some other stuff, some potential PTR stuff that is in the works, but we'll update you guys on that once it actually goes into PTR. It's kind of been our MO is to really kind of wait on it. We can speculate and talk about all that stuff as much as we want, but we're not gonna, because we don't need to. If we need to fill the show, we will have all the time in the world to talk about PTR Bastions. But without further ado, let us go to the outro of the show. Death Blow. Do we have any last minute shout outs or things that we want to talk about and all sorts of stuff? Anything?
No, as always though, if you're looking for a way to get in contact with myself or the Blevins or the show as a whole, you can find links to all of our social media outlets and platforms that we're on the website, highnoonpodcast.com. Feel free to check it out. If you have any ideas for an article I should write, I'm tempted to write an article about 4 matches worth of meta-analysis, but I'm also looking to see what's coming up next weekend to see if anything's going to get added to it.
Just write 2 articles. Just write 2.
Soldier says if you have an idea for an article, just write it.
But yeah, so I'm still looking for things I can write about, so if you have any ideas for that, I'm always open to those as well.
Samesies. Although I read about other stuff too. So if you have specifically Overwatch or Overwatch meta stuff, ship it over to Deathblow. If you have wacky, mildly Overwatch related stuff, send it to me because I'll write about that. And actually, in the writing vein, I am going to be releasing an article this week. It should actually be out. If you guys are hearing this in podcast land, it should be out right now over at media.egfederation.com. It is an article I actually wrote a little while ago, but I've been keeping as a backup article for me. It's about stuff I want to see happen in Season 3 for Overwatch, and actually I don't think any of it's happened yet, so it's actually still just as relevant as it was when I wrote it a couple weeks ago. So I don't even know why I said I wrote it a few weeks ago. I should have just said I wrote it, but it's too late. I already said it, and I'm not going to go back and edit this out. So you guys that are listening to the end of the show know my ruse, but that's going to be over, so check that out again over at EGF Media, media.egfederation.com. As always, guys, you can check us over at highnoonpodcast.com. You can always check us out on Twitter at High Noon Podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, I promise it's still there, and also YouTube, youtube.com/High Noon Podcast. Huge thanks to Matt Chirino, Season 1 sponsors, and huge thanks to Adam Hoek, who put out the sweet outro music, which you're about to hear in just a couple of seconds. I think that's it. I think that's all the shameless plugs and sellouts that I have for now. Guys, I'm the Blevins for Deathblow. Remember, it's High Noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time, till I find mine.
Feeling if you're going to talk about politics in the show, you at least should use the right. You are okay. Bye.